Success from the student's point of view the day after the board meeting, Emily about the evening's events. As you read, think about how our conversation centers on what really works for Emily. Rick.
You did a nice job at the school board meeting last night, Emily.
Emily.
Thanks. What pleased me most is that last year, I could never have done it.
Rick.
What's changed from last year?
Emily.
I guess I'm more confident. I knew what had happened from me in English class and I wanted to tell them my story.
Rick.
You became more confident writer.
Emily.
Yeah. But that's not what I mean. Last night at the board meeting I was more than good reader. I felt good talking about my writing and how I'd improved. It's like, I understand what I have a way to describe it.
Rick.
Let's talk about Emily the confident writer. What were you thinking last night when the board members were reacting to your initial writing sample, the one that wasn't very good? Still confident?
Emily.
Mom helped. She squeezed my hand and I remember. She whispered in my ear, "You'll show 'em." That helped me handle it. It's funny, I was listening to their comments to see if they knew anything about good writing. I wondered if they understood as much about it as I do. Like, they needed to take M''S. Weatherby's class.
Rick.
How did they do?
Emily.
Pretty well, actually. They found the problems in my early work and described them pretty well. When I first started last fall, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I was a terrible writer.
Rick.
How do you know that?
Emily.
I understand where I was, how little I could do. No organization. I didn't even know my own voice. No one had taken the time to show me this asserts. I'd never learned to analyze my writing. I wouldn't have known what to look for or how to describe.
Rick.
Say more about what she taught you.
Emily.
To begin with, she taught us to do what the board members did last night, analyze other people's writing. We looked at newspaper editorials, passages from books we were reading, letters friends had sent us. She wanted us to see what made those pieces work or not work.
Rick.
Why do you suppose she started you there?
Emily.
Well, she would read a piece to us and then we'd brainstorm what made good or bad. Pretty soon, we began to see patterns, things that worked or didn't work. She wanted us to begin to see and hear stuff as she read out loud.
Rick.
Like what?
Emily.
Well, look, here's my early piece from the meeting last night. See, just read it.
Emily.
It's correct, no mistakes. But these short, choppy sentences don't work. And it doesn't say anything or go anywhere. It's just disconnected thoughts. It doesn't grab you and hold your attention. Then it just stops. See, we needed to learn how to fix these things in our own writing. Now look at my other piece. Let me read it to you, so you can hear the rhythm of these sentences. She reads aloud. M''S. We taught us to read our writing out loud to hear how fix it.
Emily.
In this one, I tried to tell about the feeling of frustration that happen when humans use machines. See, I think the voice in this piece comes from the feeling that we've all been there. Everyone who works with computers has had the experience, or something close to it. A tiny writer's problem, not being able to find a good ending, turns into a major problem, losing the whole document. This idea makes the piece clear and organized. I think the reader can picture this poor, frustrated writer at her computer, trying to communicate in a humane way but finding that the computer is just as frustrated with her.
Rick.
You sound just like you did last night.
Emily.
I am always like this about my writing now. I know what works. Sentences are important. So is voice. So are organization and word choice, all that stuff. If you do it right, it works and you know it.
Rick.
What else did your teacher do to help you?
Emily.
When we were first getting started, M''S. Weatherby gave us a big stack of student papers she's collected over the years, some good, some bad and everything in between. Our assignment was to sort them into 4 stacks based on quality, from real good to real bad. When we were done, we compared who put what papers in which piles and then we talked about why we argued. Really soon, we began to describe what the differences were among the piles. From here, Ms. W helped us develop the 6 5-point rating scales that we used for the rest of the year to analyze, evaluate, and improve our writing.
Rick.
When did you begin to write and then evaluate your own work?
Emily.
As soon as we finished the rating scales.
Rick.
You own and each other's work?
Emily.
Only our own to begin with. Ems. W said she didn't want anyone being embarrassed. We all had a lot to learn. It was supposed to be private until we began to trust our own judgments. She kept saying, "Trust me. You'll get better at this and then you can share."
Rick.
Did you ever move on to evaluating each other's work?
Emily.
You bet. When we began to trust ourselves and each other, we were free to ask classmates for opinions. But Ms. Weatherby was very clear about saying that we could only give opinions in the form of ratings, with specific descriptions of what we saw in the work we evaluated. No blanket judgments, like this is good or bad. And we were always supposed to be honest. If we couldn't see how to help someone improve a piece, we were supposed to say so.
Rick.
Then what?
Emily.
Lots of practice, all year. I've still got my writing portfolio full or practice, see? It starts out pretty bad back in the fall and slowly gets pretty good toward spring. This is where the 2 pieces came from that the board read last night. I picked them. I talk about the changes in my writing and the self-reflections in here. My portfolio tells the whole story. Want to look through it?
Rick.
I sure do. What do you think? Ms. Weatherby did right?
Emily.
Nobody had ever been so clear with me before about what it took to be really good at school stuff. It's like, there's no mystery, no need to psych her out. She said, "I won't ever surprise you, trust me. I'll show you what I want and I don't want any excuses. But you've got to deliver good writing in this class. You don't deliver, you don't succeed."
Rick.
What else did she do right?
Emily.
A bunch of us were talking about this the other day. She trusted us. Every so often, she would give us something she had written, so we could evaluate her work. She listened to our comments and said it really helped her. We were her teachers. That was so cool.
Rick.
Anything else?
Emily.
You know, she was the first teacher ever to tell me that it was okay to fail. But just at first, like, when you're trying to do something new. But we couldn't keep falling. We had to get a little better each time. If we didn't, it was own fault. She didn't want us to give up on ourselves. If we kept improving, over time, we could learn to write well. I wish every teacher would do that. She would say there's no shortage of success around here. You learn to write well, you get an A. My goal is to have everyone learn to write well and deserve a.
Rick.
Thanks for filling in the details.
Emily.
Thanks you for asking.